The club boss left her for not giving him a son, until a widowed biker with 4 kids called her mama. The divorce papers arrived on Claire's birthday, 42 candles she wouldn't light because there was no one left to celebrate with. 8 years of marriage to Marcus Stone, president of the Iron Reapers, ended with a paralegal's apologetic smile and a manila envelope that felt heavier than it should. The grounds were simple, clinical, irreconcilable differences. But Claire knew the real reason. She'd given Marcus 3 daughters when he'd wanted sons. And when the doctor said her body couldn't carry another pregnancy, he'd started looking elsewhere for his legacy. She stood in the apartment she'd rented after he'd asked her to leave the house they'd built together, holding papers that made official what had been true for months, and felt nothing. Not grief, not anger, not even relief. Just the hollow absence where love used to live, and the exhausted acceptance that she'd been traded in for a younger model, with a working womb and better odds of producing the male heir Marcus needed to feel like a man. The papers fluttered to the kitchen counter, and Claire picked up her phone to call her daughters. His daughters, legally, though he'd barely seen them since the separation, and had to swallow the words when she remembered. They were with him this weekend, meeting the new girlfriend, learning to accept that mama wasn't enough to keep their family whole. Wait, before the next ride begins. If this story already hit you right in the chest, tell us where you're watching from. To ride with the Brotherhood through the next promise, loss, or redemption, subscribe and join the club. Engines up, back to the road. Claire had known the club life before she married into it. Her father had worn the patch, died wearing it when she was 16. She'd understood the hierarchy, the rules, the way women were valued for what they could give the Brotherhood. Sons to carry on the legacy, daughters to marry off to solid brothers. Loyalty that never questioned where the men went or what they did. Shed thought Marcus was different, thought the way he'd courted her, flowers, poetry, promises that she was enough just as she was, meant he'd seen her as more than an incubator for future members. She'd been wrong. The first daughter, Emma, had been celebrated, a beautiful baby, healthy and strong. Marcus had held her with pride, told Claire she'd done well. The second daughter, Sophie, had brought the first hints of disappointment. Girls are fine, he'd said, but we need balance, a son to carry the name. The third daughter, Lily, had arrived with complications, hemorrhaging that had required emergency surgery, a hysterectomy that had saved Claire's life but ended any possibility of more children. Marcus had visited her in the hospital twice. The second time, he'd brought divorce papers he wasn't ready to file yet but wanted her to think about. Because what good was a wife who couldn't give him sons? Claire had fought for 2 years, for the marriage, for the family, for the daughters who didn't understand why Daddy was pulling away. She tried to be enough, to make him see that 3 smart, beautiful, healthy children were a blessing, not a failure. But Marcus had already moved on emotionally, already started auditioning replacements, already decided that Claire's value had expired with her uterus. The old ladies had been quietly sympathetic and publicly distant. Club law was clear. You stood by your president. If Marcus said Claire was out, she was out. The fact that he'd dressed it up as mutual decision didn't change the reality. She'd been discarded, and the club would side with the man who wore the patch. Only one person had pushed back. A brother named Garrett. Not an officer, not particularly influential, just a mechanic with a quiet voice who'd stood up in church and said what Marcus was doing was wrong. Claire had heard about it secondhand, from an old lady who felt guilty enough to warn her. Garrett said you deserved better, said tossing you out for something you couldn't control wasn't brotherhood, it was cowardice. Marcus nearly kicked him out right there. But he didn't? No. Too many brothers agreed with Garrett, even if they wouldn't say it out loud. Marcus had to back down, Save face, but he's punishing Garrett now. Worst runs, overnight guard duty, all the shit work nobody wants. Claire had wanted to thank Garrett, but she'd never met him, had never been to enough club events to know all the brothers by face. And once the separation was public, she wasn't welcome at the clubhouse anymore. So she'd built a new life. Small apartment, job as a bookkeeper for a veterinary clinic, weekends with her daughters when Marcus bothered to share custody. She'd learned to be alone, to exist without the club identity that had defined her since she was 16. It was quiet, sometimes painfully so, but it was hers. The knock on her door 3 weeks after the divorce startled her. Claire wasn't expecting anyone. Her daughters were with Marcus for the week. Her few remaining friends had learned to text before showing up. She checked the peephole and saw a man she didn't recognize. Tall, lean, dark hair going gray at the temples, holding something small and purple. She opened the door with the chain still on. "Can I help you?" "Claire Stone?" His voice was gentle, uncertain. "I'm Garrett Webb, from the Iron Reapers. I think your daughter left this at the clubhouse." He held up a small purple backpack, Lily's, the one she'd been missing for weeks. Claire's heart did something complicated. "How did you—" "Emma mentioned you'd been looking for it." "I found it in the kids' playroom. Wanted to make sure Lily got it back." Claire undid the chain, opened the door fully. "You didn't have to do that. Could have given it to Marcus. Marcus doesn't notice things like missing backpacks." Garrett handed it over, careful not to let their fingers touch. "Figured Lily might be missing it." "She is. Thank you." Claire held the backpack, studied this man who defended her to his president. "You're the one who spoke up. For me." Garrett's expression shifted. Surprise, then resignation. "Word travels. It cost you." "Worth it. What Marcus did was wrong." "Most people don't think so. Most people think a wife who can't give her husband children is defective. Most people are idiots." Garrett met her eyes, and Claire saw something there she hadn't expected. Genuine respect. "You gave him 3 amazing kids. That should have been enough." Claire felt tears sting her eyes and blinked them back. "You've met them? My daughters?" "At club events. Emma helped me fix a chain on my bike once. Kids got good mechanical sense. Sophie drew me a picture of a dragon. Lily asked me approximately 400 questions about motorcycles in the span of 10 minutes. He smiled. "They're great kids." "They are." Claire clutched the backpack. "Thank you for bringing this. And for what you said. In church. I heard about it. I wish I'd said more. Done more." Garrett shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I should go. Just wanted to make sure Lily got her stuff back." He turned to leave, and Claire heard herself say, "Wait." He stopped. "Can I buy you coffee? As a thank you." Garrett looked back, surprised. "You don't have to." "I know, but I'd like to, if you have time." He hesitated, and Claire saw him calculating. The optics, the club politics, what it would mean to be seen with his ex-president's ex-wife. Then something in his face settled. "Yeah," he said, "I'd like that." They went to a diner 2 towns over, far enough from Iron Reaper territory that they wouldn't be spotted. Garrett ordered coffee black, Claire got tea she didn't drink. They sat across from each other in a corner booth, and Claire learned about the man who'd stood up for her. Garrett Webb, 45, mechanic, member of the Iron Reapers for 12 years. Widowed 4 years ago when his wife died in a car accident, leaving him with 4 children. Boys aged 13 and 11, twin girls aged 8. He was quiet, steady, the kind of brother who kept his head down and did his work without drama. Which made his defense of Claire even more remarkable. Speaking up wasn't in his nature, but injustice apparently was. "Why did you say something?" Claire asked. "Most brothers would have stayed quiet." "Because I know what it's like to have your world fall apart for reasons you can't control. When Beth died, I fell apart. The club helped. But there were brothers who thought I should have bounced back faster, been stronger. not let grief make me weak. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. Marcus was one of them. Told me I was embarrassing the club with my emotional bullshit. Said I needed to man up or get out. I'm sorry. I survived, got through it, but I remembered how it felt to be judged for being human. So when Marcus started talking about you like you were defective because your body couldn't do something, yeah, I spoke up. Because that's the same bullshit in a different package. Claire studied him, this quiet man with sad eyes and careful words. You have 4 kids? Yeah, Mason and Wyatt are 13 and 11. Twins Zoe and Mia just turned 8. That must be hard, doing it alone. It is, but we manage. My mom helps when she can, and the boys are old enough to pitch in with the girls. He paused. It's not the same as having their mother, though. They miss her every day. What was she like? Garrett's face softened. Beth, she was light. That's the only way I can describe it. She made everything brighter just by being there. Laughed easy, loved hard, never met a stray she wouldn't try to save. The kids got her kindness, thank God. They're good kids despite having me as their only parent. I'm sure you're doing better than you think. Some days. Other days I'm feeding them cereal for dinner and forgetting to sign permission slips and wondering how the hell I'm supposed to teach 4 kids how to be good humans when I'm barely holding it together myself. Claire recognized the exhaustion in his voice, the bone-deep weariness of solo parenting, of being everything to small people who needed more than one person could give. I know that feeling, even with just 3.
But you see them less now, since the divorce.
Marcus has the most of the time. Says my apartment is too small, that I can't provide the stability they need. The bitterness leaked through despite her best efforts. Funny how I wasn't stable enough to keep them, but I was stable enough to raise them for 8 years.
He's punishing you for not giving him what he wanted.
I know. Claire looked down at her tea. The worst part is the girls blame themselves. Emma thinks if she'd been a boy, Daddy wouldn't have left. Sophie has nightmares about not being good enough. Lily asks me constantly if I still love them, even though they disappointed me. Garrett's expression went dark. You told them that's not true, right? That they're perfect as they are. Every day. But they hear what Marcus doesn't say. See how he's different with them now, more distant. They feel like they failed him by being born female.
That's fucked up.
That's the club. Sons matter. Daughters are backup plans.
They sat in heavy silence, 2 people bearing the weight of being found wanting by people who should have loved them regardless. Finally, Garrett said, "My kids would love to meet yours."
If you ever want them to have some friends who get it, the club life, the loss, all of it. Claire looked up, startled. You do that? Why not? Kids need friends, and honestly, it might be good for mine to see they're not the only ones with complicated families. Marcus wouldn't like it. You being around me? Our kids playing together? Marcus can fuck himself. The words were said calmly, without heat. He doesn't get to control who I'm friends with now that you're divorced. Friends. The word felt strange and wonderful. Claire hadn't had friends in so long. The club wives had dropped her, her old friends from before Marcus had faded away, and making new ones had felt impossible when she was drowning in single parenthood and grief. I'd like that, she said. The kids meeting. If you're sure? I'm sure. They exchanged numbers, made tentative plans for the following weekend. When Garrett walked Claire back to her car, he stopped before she could get in. Claire, for what it's worth, you're not defective. You're not a failure. Marcus is a small man who needed sons to feel big, and that's his problem, not yours. Claire felt something crack in her chest. Thank you for saying that. It's true, and someday you'll believe it. She drove home feeling lighter than she had in months, Lily's backpack on the passenger seat, Garrett's number saved in her phone, and the first fragile thread of hope that maybe she could build a life after Marcus. The kids met the following Saturday at a park halfway between their homes. Claire watched her daughters approach Garrett's four with typical childhood wariness, then saw Emma immediately bond with Mason over a mutual love of skateboarding. Sophie gravitated to the twins, who were patient with her shyness. Wyatt tried to impress Lily with his knowledge of dinosaurs and was delighted when she matched him fact for fact. Within an hour, all 7 kids were playing together like they'd known each other forever. Claire sat on a bench with Garrett, watching them with something like wonder. "They're good together," she said. "Yeah, kids don't care about adult drama. They just need friends who get it." "Get what?" "Being different. My 4 know what it's like to have a dead mom. Yours know what it's like to have a dad who checked out. That's a bond most kids don't understand." Claire watched Emma teach Mason a skateboard trick, both of them laughing when he fell. "I wish I could give them more. Better apartment, their own rooms, the life they had before." "You give them you. That's more than Marcus is giving them." "Is it enough?" "It has to be." They started meeting regularly. Weekend park visits, occasional dinners where the kids would eat pizza and watch movies while Claire and Garrett talked in the kitchen. It was comfortable, easy, and a way Claire hadn't experienced with another adult in years. Garrett didn't judge her for the divorce, didn't treat her like damaged goods, didn't make her feel less than because her body had failed to produce sons. And slowly, carefully, they became friends. The club noticed, of course. Marcus heard about it from a brother who'd spotted them at the park, and he called Claire with fury in his voice. "You're fucking Garrett Webb?" "I'm not fucking anyone. We're friends. Our kids play together." "Don't bullshit me, Claire. You're with him." "And if I was, it wouldn't be your business. We're divorced, Marcus. You don't get a say in my life anymore." "He's my brother. You going after him to get back at me? This has nothing to do with you." Claire's voice rose despite her best efforts to stay calm. "For once in your narcissistic life, consider that this isn't about you. Garrett is my friend. Our kids are friends. That's all. For now. But when it becomes more, when you two start playing house, then we'll deal with it. Together. Like adults." Claire took a breath. "I have to go. The girls need dinner." "The girls are with me this week." "No, they're not. Check the custody agreement. This is my week." Silence. Then, "I'm sending Vanessa to pick them up." Vanessa, the new girlfriend, 26, blonde, probably fertile. Claire felt her jaw tighten. The custody agreement says exchanges happen between parents, not girlfriends. Vanessa is going to be their stepmother. She needs to build a relationship. She needs to wait until after you've been dating more than 3 months before you start auditioning her for Mother of the Year. Claire's voice went hard. "Send her to get my daughters and I'll file a complaint with the court. Your choice." Marcus hung up. An hour later, he showed up himself, sullen and resentful, and the girls climbed into Claire's car with relief visible on their faces. "We don't like Vanessa," Emma said, once Marcus had driven away. "You don't have to like her, sweetie. You just have to be respectful." "She's mean. She told Sophie she was too fat to be a cheerleader." Claire's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What?" "And she said Lily talks too much and needs to learn to be quiet like a lady," Sophie added. Claire breathed through the rage. "Did you tell your father?" "He said Vanessa was just trying to help us be better." Emma's voice was small. "Is that true? Do we need to be better?" "No, baby. You're perfect exactly as you are. All 3 of you." Claire met Emma's eyes in the rearview mirror. "And if Vanessa says things like that again, you tell me immediately. Understand?" They nodded, and Claire spent the rest of the drive home planning a very stern conversation with Marcus about his girlfriend's treatment of their daughters. She vented to Garrett that evening after the girls were in bed, pacing her small living room, while he listened on speakerphone. "I want to go over there and tell her exactly where she can shove her opinion about my daughters' bodies and personalities. Understandable, but probably not helpful. I know, I know. But Garrett, she called Sophie fat. Sophie is 8 years old and perfect, and now she's going to have body image issues because some 26-year-old with the emotional intelligence of a turnip. Claire stopped, breathed. Sorry, I'm ranting. Rant away. You're entitled. What do I do? Talk to Marcus, document everything, and keep being the parent who makes them feel loved exactly as they are. That's all you can do. Claire sank onto the couch. Sometimes I hate this, being the good parent while he gets to check out and play house with someone new. I know, but Claire, those girls know who loves them, who shows up. They'll remember that. I hope so. After a pause, Garrett said, The kids want to know if you all can come to Sunday dinner this week. I'm making spaghetti, which is about the limit of my cooking skills, but there'll be garlic bread and probably chaos. Claire smiled despite her anger. We'd love to. Sunday dinner became a tradition. Every week, Claire would bring her girls to Garrett's house, a modest ranch with a yard full of bikes and toys, and the comfortable disorder of a home with too many kids and not enough hands. Garrett's 4 would greet her daughters like long-lost sisters, and within minutes the house would be full of laughter and arguments and the particular music of children being children. Claire helped Garrett cook, both of them fumbling through recipes while 7 kids set the table with chaotic enthusiasm. They'd eat together, all 9 of them crammed around a table meant for 6, and it felt like family in a way Claire's marriage never had. After dinner, the kids would scatter. Homework, TV, epic battles with action figures, and Claire and Garrett would clean up together. It was domestic and comfortable, and Claire found herself looking forward to Sundays with an intensity that should have worried her. You're good with them, Garrett said one night, watching Claire help Zoe with her math homework while simultaneously braiding Maya's hair and answering Sophie's questions about dolphins. Natural. I've had practice. 3 is easier than 4, though. How do you manage? Barely. Most days I'm just trying to keep everyone alive and fed. Actual parenting is a bonus. You're doing better than that. Your kids are kind, Garrett. That doesn't happen by accident. He looked at her over the sink full of dishes, something warm in his expression. They like you, ask about you during the week, want to know when Miss Claire is coming back. Miss Claire? Wyatt started it. Now they all do it. He smiled. Mason asked me yesterday if you were my girlfriend. Claire's heart did a complicated thing. What did you tell him? That we're friends, that you're important to me, and they should treat you with respect. He seemed satisfied with that. Are you satisfied with that? The question hung between them. Garrett's hand stilled in the dishwater. Are you asking if I want more? I'm asking if this, Claire gestured between them, around them, at the house full of kids and dishes and the life they were accidentally building together. If this is just friendship, or if it's something else. Garrett dried his hand slowly, turned to face her fully. I don't know. Beth's been gone 4 years, but I still feel married sometimes. Still wake up expecting her to be there. And the kids, they need stability, not me dating someone just because I'm lonely. I understand. I do. And I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I needed to know if I'm imagining this. Whatever this is, you're not imagining it. Garrett's voice was quiet, certain. I think about you during the week. Look forward to Sundays in a way that's probably not just friendly. The kids call you Miss Claire, but in my head, you're just Claire, the woman who makes my house feel like a home again. Claire's breath caught. Garrett, but I can't. I'm not ready to call this dating. Not yet. Is that okay? More than okay. We can be whatever we are. No labels, no pressure. He nodded, relief visible on his face. Thank you. From the living room, Lily's voice rang out, Miss Claire, Zoe says dolphins can't really talk to each other, but I said they can. Tell her I'm right. Claire laughed and went to mediate the dolphin debate, and when she glanced back, Garrett was watching her with an expression that made her heart hurt in the best way. Over the following months, their undefined relationship deepened. Claire started keeping a toothbrush at Garrett's house for nights when it got too late to drive home with 3 sleeping daughters. Garrett's kids started calling her when they needed help with homework or wanted advice their dad couldn't give. Claire's girls began asking if they could live with Mr. Garrett and his kids because their apartment was too small and boring. They still didn't call it dating. Still maintained separate homes, separate lives that intersected on Sundays and random weekday evenings when one of them needed help or company, or just someone who understood. But it was becoming something more substantial than friendship, something that looked dangerously like love. Marcus noticed the change in his daughters. They talked about Mr. Garrett constantly, came back from Claire's weeks full of stories about Mason and Wyatt and the twins. During one particularly contentious custody exchange, he confronted Claire in front of the girls. "You're confusing them, playing house with Garrett, making them think you're a family when you're not. We're friends, with kids who happen to like each other. It's more than that, and you know it. You're using my daughters to trap another brother. That's enough." Garrett's voice came from behind Claire, and she turned to see him standing on her apartment steps, arms crossed. "He must have come to drop off something one of the girls had left at his house. You want to take shots at me? Fine, but you don't talk to Claire like that in front of your kids." Marcus's face went red. "This is between me and my ex-wife. She's not your wife anymore. You ended that when you decided she wasn't good enough because she couldn't manufacture sons on demand. You don't get to control who she's friends with or how she lives her life. You're sleeping with her. I'm not. But even if I was, it wouldn't be your business." Garrett stepped closer, not threatening but solid. "What is your business is those 3 girls watching you treat their mother like garbage. You want to be a good father? Start by showing them how men should respect women." Marcus looked like he wanted to throw a punch. Instead, he turned to the girls. "Get in the car, now." They scrambled to obey, and Claire watched them go with her heart breaking. When Marcus's taillights disappeared, she turned to Garrett. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did. He was out of line. He's going to make trouble for you at the club. Let him. I'm tired of watching good people get treated like shit because some asshole with a patch thinks he's untouchable." Garrett's jaw was tight. "And Claire, I'm tired of pretending this is just friendship when we both know it's more." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm falling for you. Have been for months, and I'm tired of hiding it because Marcus might be upset or the club might gossip. The kids already see it, already treat you like family. Maybe it's time we admit they're right." Claire felt tears sting her eyes. "I'm falling for you too. But Garrett, your kids, they've been through so much. Are you sure adding me to the mix is fair to them? They love you, all 4 of them. Zoe told me last week that she wishes you were her mom because you're nicer than the mom she can't remember." Mason asked if maybe someday you could live with us so he wouldn't have to wait a whole week to see Emma. Wyatt wants to know if your girls becoming his sisters means he'd have 5 siblings instead of 3. And Mia. His voice caught. Mia drew a picture of all of us, 9 people holding hands. She labeled it family. "Oh." The word came out broken. "So yeah, I'm sure. The kids are sure. The only question is whether you're sure." Claire thought about her small apartment, about the life she'd been rebuilding alone, about the fear that loving someone meant giving them power to hurt her again. Then she thought about Sunday dinners and 7 kids laughing, and Garrett's hands steady in dishwater, and the way home had started to mean wherever he was. "I'm sure," she said. Garrett kissed her then, gentle and certain, and Claire felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the fragile kind that feared disappointment, but the solid kind that had been tested and survived. They told the kids the following Sunday, gathered everyone in Garrett's living room with the seriousness the moment deserved. 7 pairs of eyes watched them with varying degrees of understanding. "So," Garrett started, "you guys know Miss Claire and I are friends." "Best friends," Mia corrected. "Right, best friends. And you know how much we all like spending time together." "We love it," Emma said. "Can we do it more?" Claire smiled. "That's actually what we want to talk about. Mr. Garrett and I, we care about each other. A lot. And we were thinking about making our families more official." "Like getting married?" Sophie's eyes went wide. "Maybe, eventually. But first, we thought we'd start spending more time together. Maybe Claire and your sisters could stay over more often, and we could all do things as one big family instead of 2 small ones." Wyatt raised his hand like he was in class. "Does this mean Emma and Sophie and Lily would be our sisters?" "If everyone's comfortable with that, yeah."
They'd be your sisters. Cool. I always wanted more siblings. Even though 3 of us are girls? Lily asked suspiciously. Girls are fine. Zoe and Mia are girls, and they're not terrible. Thanks, Wyatt, Zoe said dryly. Mason spoke up, his 13-year-old seriousness making him seem older. What do we call Miss Claire, if she's going to be here more? The question hung in the air. Claire opened her mouth to say they could keep calling her Miss Claire, that she didn't need a title, when Mia tugged on Garrett's sleeve. Can we call her Mama? I don't remember our first Mama, and Miss Claire does Mama things. She braids hair and helps with homework and makes us eat vegetables. That's what Mamas do. Claire's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Garrett, who was blinking hard, clearly trying not to cry himself. That's up to Miss Claire, Garrett managed, and your siblings. Not everyone might be comfortable. I'm okay with it, Zoe said. If Claire is? The other kids nodded, even Emma and Sophie, who still had a mother. Lily climbed into Claire's lap and looked up at her with solemn eyes. You can be our second Mama, the one we live with most. Is that okay? Claire hugged her daughter close. That's more than okay, baby. All of you can call me whatever feels right. Mama, Miss Claire, just Claire, whatever makes you happy. Mama, Mia said decisively. You're our Mama now. And just like that, Claire became mother to 7 instead of 3. It should have been terrifying, the responsibility, the complexity, the knowledge that 4 of these children had lost their first mother and might always compare her to a ghost. But looking around Garrett's living room at 7 kids who'd chosen to see her as family despite having every reason to protect their hearts, Claire felt only gratitude.
Marcus was furious, spread rumors that Claire had been sleeping with Garrett while they were still married, that she'd used the kids to trap another brother, that she was a manipulative bitch who didn't deserve custody of anyone's children. Some brothers believed him, others didn't but stayed quiet to avoid conflict. Garrett was pulled into church and questioned about his relationship with the ex-president's ex-wife. He'd been honest. Yes, they were together. Yes, they were building a life. No, it hadn't started until months after the divorce. And no, he didn't give a shit what Marcus thought about it. The president, a brother named Cole, who'd taken over after Marcus stepped down, had been more understanding than expected. Look, you're both adults. Marcus's marriage ended because he's an asshole who couldn't handle not getting exactly what he wanted. That's not on you, Garrett. But brother, you gotta know this is going to cause problems. Marcus still has friends in the club. They're going to make shit difficult. Let them. I'm not ending my relationship because Marcus's ego is bruised. Even if it costs you the patch? Garrett had considered this. The club had been his identity for 12 years, his refuge after Beth died, his brotherhood. But looking at what he had now, Claire and 7 kids who called her Mama, and a life that felt full instead of empty, the choice was clear. Even then. Cole had nodded slowly. All right, I'll do what I can to keep the peace. But Garrett, watch your back. Marcus isn't the kind to let go of grudges.
The harassment started small. Garrett's bike keyed in the clubhouse parking lot. Anonymous calls to child services claiming he was an unfit father. Threatening messages on Claire's phone telling her to stay away from club business. But Garrett and Claire had built something solid enough to weather the attacks. They documented everything, kept the kids insulated from the drama, and refused to be intimidated. 3 months after they'd made their relationship official, Garrett asked Claire and the girls to move in. The house was crowded. 4 bedrooms for 9 people meant creative sleeping arrangements, but it worked. The boys shared a room, the twins shared, Emma and Sophie shared, and Lily got the smallest bedroom because she treasured privacy. Claire and Garrett shared the master, and for the first time in years, Claire didn't sleep alone. The chaos of blending 2 families was real. Arguments over bathroom time, conflicts about whose turn it was to pick the movie, the complicated dance of making sure 7 kids felt equally loved and valued. There were nights when Claire cried from exhaustion, when Garrett snapped at kids who didn't deserve it, when they both wondered if they'd taken on too much too fast. But there were also mornings when Claire woke to the sound of 7 children laughing. Evenings when they all fit around the expanded dining table telling stories about their day. Moments when she'd catch Garrett watching her help with homework or break up sibling arguments and see such love in his eyes that she couldn't breathe. "We're doing okay," he'd say on the hard days. "Not perfect, but okay." Is okay enough? For 9 people learning to be a family, okay is fucking miraculous. They got married on a Saturday in Garrett's backyard, surrounded by the kids and Garrett's mother and a handful of brothers brave enough to defy Marcus's implicit ban on attending. It wasn't the wedding Claire had had with Marcus. No club officers, no elaborate ceremony, no sense that she was being inducted into something bigger than herself. It was smaller, quieter, more real. Claire wore a simple dress, Garrett wore jeans and a button-down, and 7 kids stood with them as they exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Garrett promised to love her broken parts and celebrate her strength, to be a partner, not a president, to build a family where daughters were just as valued as sons. Claire promised to love his children as her own, to honor Beth's memory while building new traditions, to choose him every day, even when the club made it hard. When they kissed, the kids cheered, and Claire felt the particular magic of promises kept in front of witnesses who actually mattered. Marcus showed up an hour into the reception, drunk and furious. He'd brought 2 brothers with him, both looking uncomfortable but loyal. Claire saw him coming and stepped in front of Garrett, protective instinct overriding common sense. "You need to leave, Marcus. This is bullshit. You can't replace me with him. Those are my daughters. Those are our daughters, and they're inside celebrating their new family. You're not welcome here. I have custody rights. Every other weekend and Wednesday dinners, which means today is my day, and you're trespassing." Claire's voice was steel. "Leave before I call the police." "You bitch. You manipulative, husband-stealing bitch." Garrett moved past Claire, putting himself between her and Marcus. "That's enough. You said your piece. Now go." "She was mine." "She was never yours. She was a person you married and discarded when she didn't serve your purposes anymore. But Claire is free now, and she chose me, chose this family. You don't get a say in that." Marcus swung. Garrett ducked, caught his former president's fist, and twisted just enough to make it clear he could hurt Marcus if he wanted to, but was choosing restraint. The brothers Marcus had brought stepped forward, uncertain, and Garrett's small group of supporters moved to intercept. "Stop." Cole's voice cut through the tension. The current president had shown up late, and now he stood between the 2 groups with authority that demanded attention. "Marcus, you're drunk and out of line. Go home." "He's with my wife." "Your ex-wife, who you divorced, who is free to marry whoever she wants. This isn't club business, Marcus. It's you being unable to handle losing." Marcus swung. Garrett ducked, caught his former president's fist, and twisted just enough to make it clear he could hurt Marcus if he wanted to, but was choosing restraint. "Stop." Cole's voice cut through the tension. The current president had shown up late, and now he stood between the two groups with authority that demanded attention. "Marcus, you're drunk and out of line. Go home." "He's with my wife, your ex-wife, who you divorced, who is free to marry whoever she wants. This isn't club business, Marcus. It's you being unable to handle losing." The club should stay the fuck out of it. Garrett's a brother in good standing. Claire's a civilian who did nothing wrong except fail to produce sons on demand. This isn't our fight. Cole looked at the brothers Marcus had brought. "Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me in church. But right now, you're all leaving so these people can celebrate in peace." Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but even drunk, he knew better than to challenge the president publicly. He left with his supporters, spitting threats that everyone ignored. When they were gone, Cole approached Claire and Garrett. "Sorry about that. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again." "Thank you," Claire said quietly. "For what it's worth, you two look happy. That's worth something." Cole nodded to Garrett. "See you at the next meeting, brother." He left, and Claire sagged against Garrett. "That was handled. It's handled." Garrett kissed her temple. "Come on, we've got a wedding to get back to." They returned to the party where 7 kids were decorating a sheet cake with the concentrated focus of artists. When they saw their parents, Mia ran over with frosting-covered hands. "Mama, we made it say best family ever. Is that okay?" Claire knelt and hugged her frosting-covered daughter. "That's perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect." Life settled into a new normal. Claire quit her bookkeeping job to manage the chaos of 7 kids, 7 schedules, 7 sets of needs and dreams and homework. It was exhausting and overwhelming, and she'd never been happier. Garrett worked at the garage, came home to a house full of noise and life, and felt Beth's ghost settle into something gentler. Not gone, but at peace with the fact that he'd found love again. The kids thrived. Emma became Mason's confidant, the two of them working through teenage angst together. Sophie and the twins formed an inseparable trio, finishing each other's sentences and defending each other fiercely. Wyatt and Lily bonded over their shared love of facts and lengthy explanations, driving everyone else crazy with their debates. They fought like siblings, loved like siblings, became siblings in every way that mattered. When Emma turned 16, she asked if she could change her last name to Webb. "I want to match everyone else. Want to be officially your daughter, not just Marcus's kid who lives here." Claire had cried. Garrett had gone quiet in the way he did when emotions overwhelmed him. They'd asked if Emma was sure, if she understood what she was giving up. "I'm not giving anything up. I'm gaining a dad who actually wants daughters." Emma had looked at Garrett with teenage certainty. "You've been more of a father in 2 years than Marcus was in 16. I want your name, if that's okay." It had taken 6 months and a lawyer, but Emma Webb was made official. Sophie followed a year later. Lily wanted to wait until she was older to decide, which they all respected. Marcus faded from the girls' lives gradually, then completely. He married Vanessa, who produced the son he'd wanted within a year. His visits with Emma, Sophie, and Lily became sporadic, then non-existent. He stopped paying child support, stopped calling, stopped pretending to care about daughters who hadn't given him what he needed. The girls grieved the father they'd wanted him to be, but they had Garrett, steady, present, loving them exactly as they were. And they had 4 siblings who'd chosen them, who'd made space in their established family for 3 more. On what would have been Beth's 45th birthday, the whole family visited her grave. It had become tradition. Once a year, 9 people gathering to tell her about the life her children were living, the family that had expanded to include her husband's new wife and her 3 daughters. Garrett laid flowers on Beth's headstone while the kids scattered to explore the cemetery. Claire stood beside him, giving him space to grieve privately. "Thank you," he said after a long silence. "For what?" "For not being threatened by her. For letting the kids remember her, talk about her, keep her present. She was their mother. That doesn't change because I'm in the picture now. Some women would be jealous, would want to erase her. Claire touched the headstone gently. I'm not replacing her, Garrett. I'm the next chapter. She'll always be the one who gave them life. I'm just the one who gets to help them live it. Garrett pulled her close, kissed her forehead. From across the cemetery, they heard Mia's voice. Mama, come see this cool gravestone. It has a motorcycle on it. Claire smiled and called back, Coming, baby. She looked at Garrett. Ready? Yeah. Let's go be with our kids. Our kids. The words that had once seemed impossible. Claire mothering 7 children. Garrett trusting someone to help raise the 4 who carried Beth's memory. All of them becoming family despite every reason it shouldn't work. They walked toward their children, hands linked, and Claire thought about Marcus's rejection, about being deemed worthless for circumstances beyond her control, about the long, lonely months of rebuilding herself. If someone had told her then that the worst thing to happen would lead to the best, that being thrown away would somehow result in 7 children calling her mama and a man who loved her broken parts, she wouldn't have believed them. But here she was, not replaced, not second choice, but chosen. Deliberately, completely, by a man who'd lost everything and understood what it meant to build again from ruins. By children who'd opened their hearts to a stranger because she'd showed up and stayed and loved them without condition. Marcus had left her for not giving him a son, but Garrett and his 4 kids, and eventually her own 3, had given her something better. A family built on choice, not obligation, on love that didn't require perfection. On the radical acceptance that daughters were just as valuable as sons, that second chances were real, that broken people could build beautiful things if they were brave enough to try. Mama, Daddy, come on! The kids were calling, impatient, full of life and noise and the uncomplicated joy of being loved. Claire squeezed Garrett's hand. Our kids are demanding. They get that from you. Lies. Pure lies. They caught up to the 7 children who'd made them parents in ways biology never could, and Claire felt the particular contentment of being exactly where she belonged. Not where Marcus had told her she belonged, silent, productive, manufacturing heirs, but here, in the chaos of blended family and children who needed love more than perfection, and a man who'd chosen her after she'd been thrown away. The club had taught her that daughters were disappointments, that women who couldn't produce sons were defective. But Garrett's children, 2 sons and 2 daughters who'd lost their mother, and eventually her 3 daughters who'd lost their father's attention, had taught her different. They'd taught her that family wasn't about bloodlines or gender or meeting someone else's expectations. It was about showing up, about staying, about loving people exactly as they were and letting them love you back. And when 4 children who barely knew her had called her mama for the first time, when they'd chosen her despite having every reason to protect their hearts against another potential loss, that had healed something Marcus's rejection had broken. She wasn't defective. She wasn't a failure. She was a mother to 7, a wife to a good man, and proof that sometimes the people who throw you away do you the biggest favor of your life. They just don't know it until someone better comes along and picks you up.